Good
Was
morning
this
and
on,
happy Monday.
good morning. Was this on the calendar before? Or was this just what we got just now? I mean,
No, this has been here. This is our third month, Selena.
Yeah, third month. Yep.
Third
Monday
month of
morning?
doing, first and third Mondays at 11 a.m. California time. And, and of course, Bruce, this and John, this purpose of this is in the midst of building, you start, selling more houses. Then I got, I need an assistant. I need a transaction coordinator. I might need a
building the
buyer's agent.
team. Okay.
Yeah. And building the team in a manner that makes it sustainable
Gotcha.
and permanent. In other words, never going backwards. Now, lots of things.
Okay.
I think I've gone backwards 7 times in my career of 42 years. So I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, but the idea would be to build it such that you don't have to go backwards, like you're building it
Gotcha.
incrementally.
Gotcha.
And with a foundation of leads, essentially a team. If the foundation isn't leads, then why are you a team, right? What's the purpose?
Right. Exactly.
So, so in the, in the interest of, making sure that we are delivering on this call, Selena has, 25 years of coaching and structuring and working within and without team, meaning from the outside looking in and from the inside looking out. And of course, me, a practitioner, meaning selling real estate for over 42 years and have had a formal team on more than 5 different occasions. But the way we're operating right now is by far the most efficient, profitable, and operationally excellent that we've ever been, and we have a lot more to go. So we feel very strongly about sort of spreading the word about this and helping people to build it in such a manner. I interviewed someone who's, you guys, none of you probably know, but he is a person in the organization. And, I'd heard about him before he came, and wow, he's running this rock star team. And I'm like, hey, share with me what the splits of your buyer's agents are, when he asked me to give him some coaching. And they were 85-15. And I about passed out. I was like, I just instantly said, are you open to coaching feedback? He goes, yeah, that's why we're on the call. I said, that's losing money. Oh, he said, oh, no, the cash flow is great. I go, cash flow versus profitability, big difference. Because when you have a high average sale price, the cash flow can disguise the lack of profitability. It doesn't mean you don't pay. So teams are built with the team leader providing value, but not negativity, not I can't run this team because I'm losing money running it. That's why so many people say, screw it, I don't want a team. I'll pass. I've even had to at least convince people to give out their referrals at 50%. Even if you don't want a team, I said, I can help you find people who'll take your referral at 50%. As if you had a team, meaning, because if you're on my team, your referrals are, you bring somebody, I give you somebody, it's 50-50. So even that is troublesome for some people. So,
Right.
yeah. So in the interest of, Selena, I know I came on like a bull in a china shop, but obviously having been doing business planning clinics for the last 3 or 4 weeks ad nauseum and infinitum, I would say that, it's more important now towards the end of the year that we look at how we're going to start the year and whether or not we're going to be team building, excuse me, and other people will listen to this recording. So we don't know what they're going to be looking for when they're listening to the recording. Jason, good to have you on. You, John, and Bruce, if you have specifics about your situation, that's how we all learn. And then we just had another David join, so feel free to jump on. Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Things are great. I've got I just started me and my wife, we just hit it really hard as soon as we moved over to EXP, and we just wanted some time back. So we brought on 5 agents or four agents, I believe. Working on maybe picking up a couple more. We are at a pretty, I think, beefy split. But and we're at a 50. And it resets at 50 for the first two, then 55 for the next two, and then 60 for the next two, but it resets every month.
Nice.
Which I thought was, hell no, no one's gonna do that. But then I realized I'm not hiring myself, I'm hiring different people. Although,
Good point. So that's the mindset issue. You have a mindset of a team leader and not everyone does. In fact, most don't. So,
right, and that's what I had to learn. I talked to my business friends that run other businesses, and they just said, hey, Jason, if you hire yourself, you're not going to stick around very long, but you're going to hire different people, and you're going to take care of them. They're going to stay there for years, because of the leads and the coaching and the teaching that you're doing. One thing I do have to vent to everybody else is I hired a newbie agent, and it is killing me. Not killing me. I don't have the time. Like in my head, I'm like, I thought I had the time, and I don't have the time. I tell her directly, I need you to do this, and this. And then 2 days later, I'm like, oh, hey, how'd that go? She says, well, I haven't done that. And I'm like,
was that the girl that was on the call the other day
yeah,
sitting next to you?
Yeah. Super, she's brand new. I just picked up another agent. Get this is going to be my rock star. She was there's a great big nonprofit around here it's called Family Care Network. She was their director of fundraising, and she just came on as a real estate agent. She's not
afraid to talk to anybody, right?
Yeah.
She's gonna crush it.
She is going to crush it. I mean, she put together events. She ran CRMs. She's done everything. I'm excited for her.
Yeah, and she can even add that 10% of everything she does is going to go back to that nonprofit. That will even kill it more. For
her. That is a great idea. Like, I'm looking for tax write-offs right now. Shoot, I could just say every deal. She could call those people and say, hey, everything.
Yeah, I actually coached a lady in Minnesota, still coach her once in a while, that came out of that exact role. She was head of, well, they called it development. They didn't call it raising money, but she was head of development for a major nonprofit in the area of Coon Rapids, Minnesota, and then went into real estate, and then immediately combined that, saying everything I do 10% of it will go back to that nonprofit, so that she gets so many referrals from the nonprofit, from the database, because she took the database, it was her, she's the one who developed the database, and it really works well.
Wow, that's huge, Rick. Thank you. That's huge. Because now she has access to call that. She has a reason to say that.
Yeah. And it's really.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, Selena. I don't want
Jason, was that Erica?
Yes.
She has a nice disc.
Oh, does she? Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm looking forward to getting for it.
I sent it over to you this morning, so take a peek.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And then since, John Noe is in, I think, Southern California, Bruce is in LA, Jason is
Las Vegas.
I
He's in
mean,
Vegas.
I meant to say LV. I don't know why I said LA, Las Vegas. And then Jason Frankie is in sort of what we call the Central Coast, against the right on the water, Arroyo Grande, Santa Maria.
Oh, Santa
that
Maria.
area.
Nice.
And then David Conart, a former coaching client of mine, is in Florida, in the Panhandle, right? Right,
I'm
David?
in LA, Lower Alabama.
Lower
Where are you?
Alabama.
Wait, where are you?
LA,
David,
LA,
I'm in the Florida Panhandle, but underneath Alabama.
David, where are you from? Because I always tell people I'm from Lower Alabama. Where are you from?
Well, I'm from Jackson, Mississippi, but I've been in Destin for 32 years.
I'm from I grew up in Panama City, Florida, and I always say Lower Alabama.
Yeah, LA, Lower Alabama. Yeah, and David was a coaching client of mine, Selena, through Workman, and he was with Next Home.
Oh, okay.
And then who recruited you? Somebody in my group recruited you to EXP. Brent Conley.
Mhm.
Brent Conley, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. So it was kind of cool, because I'm like, Brent Conley calls me, he goes, Rick, I recruited a guy named David Conard. I go, what? Of course, I was never allowed to talk to David about EXP because he was, my coaching client. So anyway, and David, David had a very big team at a point. How's that going now? You were
I let the team go. It's just been me lately. So
all right.
I need to go back to a team.
Yeah. So you can have a life, you mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, I make more money not having a team, but.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well-
That's a
Yeah,
question.
you-
That's something I want to ask you about when you just said that. I'm
Well,
like,
you keep more money, but you
keep-
don't, yeah. You keep
okay,
more money, but you also, it's Bruce, I don't know if you remember me saying it. I said it on the business plan call. I said, maybe about a couple of calls back, I said, I mean, unless you're the person that kisses your significant other goodbye on Monday morning and says, I love you, see you Saturday night, right? Like, and see David smiling and nodding, that can happen very easily. And he is a very big agent in that area, 32 years, everybody knows him. Like everybody knows
so
him in
he's
Destin.
busy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he's got, you know, the regular people buying houses, but then he's got resort business and he's
Mhm.
got, you know, so. Yeah,
But
it's,
when you go out of town, it stops.
yeah.
So,
Especially
and
when the
then,
person that helps you is your wife, when you're overloaded, or your son, and they're out of town with you. And
Yeah.
then you say, okay, now what do I do? So,
it's like PPC. The second you stop spending, it stops. So
but I shouldn't say I made more money. I netted more money because I was doing all the work.
Yeah.
and you want to
it's-
go back to it. You want to go back to the team aspect. Is that because you want to like
I'd like to
Rick
travel
said.
more, and you know, I'm probably
Right,
pretty
you want-
close
you
to
want your
my
life
daughter
back,
getting
basically.
married and
Okay.
grandkids, and you know, I can see that a couple of years down the line, and then
so
the
it's a
wife
payoff?
wanting to
It's
move to another area, maybe California, and then I'm gonna have to say, okay, do I have a team there and a team here, and I go back and forth.
so it's a trade-off, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
Leverage.
Mhm.
A team is leverage.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I had the team and it was great. You either got to, you know, Rick makes it, you either got to go big or don't, you know, for me, I had to either go big or don't do it. So,
I ran the numbers mathematically. I will be making more money as long as they produce, you know, 20% of what I produced in the last 3 months. I will make more money as long as they are producing that. And I get my time back. But yeah,
And Jason, that's to the bottom line, or is that gross?
that's gross for me. Yeah.
Well, and so let me explain a couple of things, guys, so that there isn't any confusion about what we make and we don't make. We don't net as much if you took the item and said, what if I did this, right? But there's the idea behind building a team is not just sustainability, it's leverage. There's no way in the world I would close as many buyers as I'm closing now. And yes, I'm only getting 50% of them and there's some cost affiliated with that. But if it wasn't profitable at the end of the day, I wouldn't be doing it.
Correct.
All right. So I'm netting a lot more than I could ever net because there's no way in the world I have that many hours in the day. It's like, it's the same way that revenue share works here. You're getting a little piece of what hundreds do as opposed to a whole piece of what you do. It's the reason my wife has a huge marketing team all over the world with Nu Skin, right? She's going to get paid whether she gets out of bed or not for the work that's being done by thousands around the globe, not just her. And so if we look at it that way, if every time, this is the way Gary Keller started me off. I'd had a team in the 90s, but it was more a reactive team. Hey, I'm slammed. Could you take this? And then in 2001, I started coaching with Gary Keller, even though I'd had some good Mike Ferry coaching and stuff like that. And Gary said, Rick, the reason people's teams don't succeed is they're not doing enough of the thing that helps them succeed. And some of you probably heard the story, but he said, why are you still dealing with any buyers at all? And I said, I'm only dealing with people over 500,000. Back then, that was a big deal, 2001. And he said, why are you dealing with any of them? They're still buyers regardless of the price range. And I said, well, they're, executives and personal referrals. And he said,
They want me.
yeah, they
Think
want
that
me.
they want you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. No, I said they want me.
Right.
Fact is, they never said that. Right. So then Gary said, well, I'll tell you what, name one of the people that's this hoity-toity that you're dealing with. And I said, geez, Dr. Doug Treadway, who is the president of the college. And he goes, let me ask you, Rick, when you call Doug, who answers the phone? I said, his secretary. He goes, right, you know why? This is Gary, sarcastic, high D, high C, because they know there's someone else for every different job, not them. He said, and then when you make an appointment, I go, yeah, through his secretary. He goes, and what happens when you call a cell phone during business hours? I said, his assistant answers his cell phone. He goes, right, because there's somebody for every job. He said, your language is going to be like this. Doug and Carol, I've done you this favor. I'm typically a listing agent. I've been spending my time trying to get you the house of your dreams, and houses are coming on the market, and maybe I'm just not attentive enough. I want to introduce you to June on my team. She's 1,000% nothing but buyers. That's her job. That's how good she is, that she would be on my team. She gives the same level of service to me, only higher when it comes to buyers. And we're going to be working with her from now on. I'm not going to be completely out of it. I'm still going to be involved in all aspects, but not from the finding you your dream home. And he leaned in and goes, great, when do we get started? That's what he said, which is not what I wanted him to say. I wanted to be right. I wanted him to say, no, we hired you, Rick. And I had to call Gary Keller and say, you're right. And that was it, right? Then I got it. And that wasn't easy, but man, but he said this. In the beginning, Rick, when you do this, every time you surrender a buyer, take that exact same amount of time you would have been with that buyer and go over here and sit down and lead generate for listings. In May of 2002, I took 18 listings in 1 month. I had never done it before then, and I've never done it since. But why is every time I gave up a buyer the month of May, I sat down and did lead generating. And it worked so well. Because the reason you're giving the buyer away is you should be busy doing higher dollar per hour things. Now, when Selena and my wife Casey, who overlook everything, they did the analysis of our buyers and sellers deals. Our average buyer on our team is $950. Our average seller is $1,250,000. That's a $300,000 difference. What else does that mean? That means I should be spending more time lead generating for listings, and right, I'm going to make a lot more commission, and it's all mine. It doesn't, none of it goes to the team. So yeah, there's a lot to be said about, you know, Bruce, you and Bernadette are husband and wife. And for now, you could even say, okay, honey, I'm going to do the listings, you do the buyers, or vice versa, or you could continue to mix them. But best husband and wife teams like David and Allison, even though Allison, how is she, by the way, David? I haven't talked to her in ages.
She's doing great.
She was one of my favorite wives as far as husband-wife
And
teams.
she'll still
Speak
go
of the
out and show
devil.
for me if I need her to.
Yeah.
I know, Bruce, that was good timing. Here comes
Yeah,
Bernadette.
did you, someone set this up? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
And
she'll
here
go out and
comes
show
Bernadette.
for me. and-
I kind of would like to talk about her while she's not here. but-
Yeah.
Why?
Well, and John, guys, by the way, John Noe dropped off, which I thought he would, because he's not in EXP to build a team. He's only in EXP to build, and
Organization.
Selena, we should probably remind John about the builders calls, just so he doesn't think this is it.
Got it.
But anyway, yeah, so this is really good stuff. And if I think about Jason, like I met Jason a couple of times in person, what I really liked about him is that he has a really community-based business, right? It's complete, like everybody in the community knew his father-in-law, who was his broker, which means, you know, it was uncomfortable for him and his wife, the daughter of the broker, to leave, but they're building something that will go on into infinity. Seriously. And Jason, I got to tell you, the things you've been doing are so refreshing from this end,
No,
you know, building the team and plugging in, because it'd be easy for a guy that's as successful as you, like they say, what's easy to do is also easy not to do. It'd be easy for a guy like you not to plug in, you know, hey, I already got a lot of this stuff. I just need to handle the business I'm getting. But you seem so regimented about putting something together that is systematized, operationally excellent, that will feed you the rest of your life. So good for you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask a real quick question?
Yeah.
So, you know, this is kind of, I want your guys' input. So my buyer's agents, you guys might be very mad at me for this one. I have allowed them contractually to take on listings, even though I am the listing. They are supporting. I frankly don't, me and my wife want out of real estate. And I don't mean it like that, but we just don't want to deal with anymore. So we want them to deal with it. I am still the listing agent. I take a bigger split from them. They're not just a referral, but so that way they work it. We pay for their TC, we pay for everything. I am still on the sign. Our family's still on the sign. Well, we're shaking heads here, like you're saying, yeah, that sounds like a good deal.
No. Well,
Well, what are you guys thinking? Because officially, I've been told by a lot of people, like, no, you have a listing agent and you have a buyer's agent. But my
Well-
buyer's agents, I feel like Kyle, he's done all of his deals were listings. He's only had one buyer, but now he's my buying agent. And I feel bad. I'm like, he could handle a listing. So I
yes.
don't know, what are you
Okay.
guys?
So I'm going to talk, and then I definitely want Selena to go next, because you're going to get different perspectives in how we've handled it, since Selena is the boss of the Rick Jihad team, not me, believe it or not. So,
Good.
and I'm serious because
I want
the
a
more-
boss. Selena, I will put my business under you. I'll pay you. I can do
So-
this. You want 50 grand? I'll buy you a chicken.
So it just transpired, Jason, that some of my team started bringing on listings, and then we developed that they're on a listing that you bring to the team, that 20% would come off the top for my expenses, because I'm staging, photography, flyers, and also look what else, Jason, those are hard costs. The recurring costs are my assistant, my VA, my transaction coordinator, all those things that I was going to pay for. So if you take 20% off the top, what's left is 80%, and we're splitting the 80. So in actuality, the team is getting 60%, the agent is getting 40.
Yeah.
Okay. It's worked incredibly well. And at the same time, we have decided that those 7 or 8 agents going forward, they were grandfathered and no more. Okay. So not a good or bad thing, just because, let's be honest, Tom Smythe has taken 6 or 7 listings this year.
Yeah.
Some have taken 3 or 4, but with our average sale price, that's a lot of money, right? Melissa, I think, Marissa, did I say Melissa?
I know, it's
Marissa,
like, who?
Marissa brought the majority of listings and brought, quite a few in terms of the team. And that all works well, has worked very well. But we're definitely saying things would be much easier if they're getting they get a 30% referral fee off the top, and then we keep the rest, right?
Yes.
And they don't get involved other than making the introduction and staying connected that way. They get to be in charge of the team. They might even get preferential leads that came from that listing, things like that. And it seems to be working. Selena, now take your perspective, since she's.
Well, there's a lot.
I think
There's a
I
lot
can
of-
see you're itching.
I'm
to-
like dying.
Yeah, let me
Look, there's a lot of different ways to run this. The reason in the past I've run teams in New York that we ran it where they were 2 completely different positions. You have a listing partner and you have a buyer specialist. And there's a script for it as well, just like a transaction coordinator or a listing manager. It's the same concept as having someone who is a specialist in what they do. They become incredible at what they do. And when you start diluting that, right, you start having someone kind of be a little bit good at one thing and a little bit good at the other. And am I dealing with a buyer today? Am I dealing with a listing? And I'm seeing it even on the team, right? So with Rick's team, yes, those people who are grandfathered in, the problem is that, and this is going to sound terrible, but they sort of suck the life out of the rest of us when they have to bring that listing in, because all of a sudden they don't know what to do. They don't know how to set up an open house. They don't know how to do this, that, and the other thing.
And every time they
And-
want to have a conversation with the seller, they want to run every word by you and have you.
Every,
Should I say
Right.
that or not say that? How about just step the hell out of the way and I'll say it?
yeah. So you start getting pulled in all of these different directions because that's not their specialty.
Yeah.
Right. And so you start not running as efficiently as you would be doing if they were truly a buyer specialist and truly a listing specialist. So when we design the team that way, and you talk to a seller, this is our listing partner. This is what they do all day, every day. These are the conversations they have because this is their jam, right? They're not getting distracted by handling a buyer this afternoon. We have specialists that do that. There are like the script that says when you go to have heart surgery, you don't want to go see a podiatrist. Yes, they both went to medical school, but if you're having your heart worked on, you don't want a foot doctor. He might have to fill in that day, but realistically speaking, you don't want him working on your heart. You just don't. So, I mean, it's sort of that concept. And yes, it comes up all the time. Someone will say to the team leader, well, this is my neighbor and they want to list with me. Well, I understand that. Last week, my neighbor said they wanted to buy. I gave them to you. So
Oh, yeah.
works both ways.
So get this, my initial contract with my first buyer's agent specifically said you will only take on buyers and you will give me a referral, or I will give you a referral for listings. But then it puts me back to work because I don't have a
So
listing.
hire a listing partner.
Yeah.
Well, we say yes, right? We say yes, but I'm buyer heavy. I just had 5 listings closed and I have 2 more, but I don't have any future leads for listings right now. So I feel like if I hired a listing agent, I'd be like, I can't feed you.
Well, Jason, we need to work on that because listings are where it starts. So that's
Well,
another conversation.
Right. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Then that's kind of my next thing. I'm looking into coaching. I'm looking into all of that just because
Jason, where do you normally get your listing leads?
Yeah.
everything is referral. So I'm a big
Oh, so you're, okay.
all referral. I haven't paid. I'm now paying for Zillow because I need the tax write-offs, but that's only been a month and a half. But other than that, everything has been referrals. I am about to send out a big mailer, huge mailer, just again, tax write-offs, right? I just need to send out money.
Marketing. Mhm.
I'm sorry. go ahead.
I have a question. Why
Yes.
don't you just find somebody within your company that is good at, is experienced in listings and give them your listings for 50% and the agreement that they're going to get all your listings? That takes you having to work.
50.
No.
To do that. So the reason I don't want to do that is because I
No.
am marketing for them. They are doing me. They are who I am.
Yeah, guys, that's why
I don't
Selena and I will tell you the response on this.
That's a big no.
It's called a
It's a
listing.
hard no.
Yes, it's called a listing specialist. A listing specialist gets somewhere between 15 and 25%, and we'll talk about the difference of all your listings, and you do nothing. You do nothing. They go on the listing appointment. Like, you don't understand the number of teams we coach, both her and I, that do 400, 500, 600 transactions a year, and the team leader does not go on any appointments. This is a common theme. None. No listing, no buyers. They're running the operation. They're
Yes.
overseeing it. They're a chairman of the board, and sometimes they'll even have chairman of the board, CEO, and then listing specialists and buyer specialists, right? So Selena now is taking the role of the CEO of the team, right? So Casey, my wife, is chairman of the board. I am just one of the functional cogs in the works. Well,
For now.
thanks. Casey goes, not just.
Your chief operations officer.
No.
Well, no,
How about that?
definitely not that. I'm just chief. I'm chief worker bee, Bruce. So
Okay.
here's the thing
Frankly,
though.
that is correct.
Yeah, and Jason, when it's done correctly, we have Shauna, right? And Shauna is incredible at this. She knows how to talk to sellers. This is where hiring very, very slowly is so important, because you want that person that their aptitude is set for it, like they already get it. Like you just said about the guy you hired.
Yeah,
Like
he's
that
a
guy
seller.
could be a great listing specialist, and maybe he gets a bonus when it's his listing that he brought. Right? So it's perfect. And guys, this is where we all need to think about getting to, because again, I said it in my classes, we always think about getting in the business and how we're going to be successful and maintaining that success. And we forget to start thinking about how can we get out. All right.
Yeah.
And David Conart, you and I used to have these conversations all the time. How the hell am I getting out? And that's what's important. Is getting out doesn't mean disband the team or sell the team. It means continuing to get paid on that,
Mhm.
right, for years to come.
So a couple of things. Bernadette, sorry to jump on you there when you said the 50%.
Oh, you're good, you're good.
But this is usually like, even with Rick, and he'll admit it, like when I came on and what he was paying was astronomical in comparison to what we normally see in the industry. Okay, so the idea is, and the reason you may say 25%, why would anybody come on and be a listing partner for 25%? You are covering all of the overhead because you want the marketing to look exactly like you would have it look. All right. At 25%, they're not covering the photography. They're not covering the lockbox. They're not covering any of the pay-per-click, right? They have a couple of jobs: make calls, convert them to appointments, get the listing paperwork signed, and negotiate the deal when it comes in. The end. That's it. Right? They're going on listing appointments and they're just converting the thing. They're not calling and setting up open houses. They're not scheduling photography because you have an admin doing all of that. Most of the time, we're still paying for the lead flow.
That's what I
Right.
was gonna ask. So you guys are
Yeah.
still even paying for
So
those leads?
Red X and things like that for dialers and calling and all of that stuff.
You
And
can't
if it's-
afford to pay him 50%.
You can't, no,
Gotcha.
no, that's a
can't- yeah,
massive
you
loss.
can't afford
It's-
it.
At
Yeah.
25%, it's a volume-based business for them.
Yeah.
They are literally just doom, 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 making calls, getting appointments. I mean, if you think about it, like, if that's all you had to do when you were a new agent, I mean, hello,
Right.
dream about that, right? If you work like 8 to 5, like realistically, you don't even have to go on listing appointments on the weekend if you don't want to. That's how we designed it in New York. It was like, that was your job. You lead converted from 8 until like 11, and then you went on listing appointments in the afternoon. And it was just like, that was your schedule. And like, we created that system for them. And we had a listing manager that when they got the listing paperwork signed, they walked in and they handed it to an admin and said, here, I made this beautiful thing for you today. Now go enter it into the MLS and order photography, get the sign put up, right? And they went back and they just made more calls and got more listing appointments.
Gotcha.
And that
makes
was the
sense.
beauty behind it. So yeah, they looked at it and they thought, I'm earning 25% and that's all I got to do. This is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Like we had 3 at the
Yeah.
end, like 3 listing partners. That was all they were doing. We were carrying on average 40 active listings at one time,
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
right? Because it
And this
becomes
is in a
machine.
relatively high-end area of the White Plains, New York area. So it's
That's
not like,
huge.
not like this is Ohio where they're 90,000. I mean, these were 500 to $1 million listings, you know.
Our
so-
average price point at that point was 700,000 to 800,000.
Yeah.
You know, so it becomes a machine because you've designed it for them.
Yeah.
Right. And they love that because now they're like, wow, I'm not trying to figure out how to do marketing and how
Yes.
to post to social media and like how to, you know,
And
show up
guys,
and
what
deliver
we're not
flyers.
talking about, because we're not ready for it, and Jason, at some point you can reach out to Selena directly, but what are the scripts? How do we speak to
Recruit for
the
that.
candidate? How, then when the candidate's on, how does the candidate, what script does the candidate use with the listing client? How do you introduce the listing specialist to the client? Like there's all kinds of scripts and dialogues around that are practice and work. You know, when I talk to people call me all the time about, Rick, how do you have 9 buyer's agents? Look, I'm not the master on that. A friend of mine has 33 buyer's agents. It's
Mhm.
not, I'm definitely not the master, but you know, I always introduce my buyer's agents as business partners. Simple as that. Just my choice of language. And it seems to really work well for my clientele, right? Oh, I want to introduce you to my business partner. And we'll even set up on a group text and I'll throw in Cindy, my lead buyer specialist. I set up that group text and then I can ignore it because Cindy and the buyer specialist will take care of it, not me. But what does the client think? Oh, look at me. I'm on a text group with Rick. Only Rick's never answering and they don't notice. Got it? So there's all kinds of things you can do, and you're gonna customize that little bit yourself. But for the most part, you're gonna stick with what's worked for thousands of teams. Okay. Does that make
Jason-
sense?
Jason, I want to circle back to something you said at the beginning of the call. I made myself a note to come back to it. So 2 things. 1, on a newbie, okay, because they will suck the life out of you. Try to always hire 2 at the same time. You
Oh.
can't.
Should've-
me-
Yeah,
Let me tell you why. You partner them up, they become role play partners, practice partners, things like that. And one of them is almost always not going to make it. Okay, so if you're hiring 2 at the same time and you have some attrition, one of them's there and you're training 2 of them at the same time. So if you can do it, 2 at the same. Even if you have to delay a start date of a newbie with training on the team and say, our training starts in 2 weeks. and you're still recruiting and maybe you're almost there with another newbie. It's just smarter. Okay. They don't know that you don't schedule your training. Okay. So if you just say it starts on December 1st, they don't know that. Okay. Try to always do 2 newbies at the same time, because that way, if they're practicing scripts and whatnot, great, go practice together. You know, and it's just a smarter way of doing it. Okay. So if you're going to go that route, do that. Lessons learned over the years. Okay. Second thing, you mentioned about doing the math and the profitability whenever you're bringing people on. Guys, there's a minimum level of expectation for it to make it worth your while. Okay, you've got to do the math, and you're all in different markets. But with Rick, we had to sit down and decide, you know, what that looks like for his team, because there haven't been levels of accountability and levels of expectation on production in the past. But you've got to do the math on the amount of time spent invested on people when you bring them onto the team. Okay, so you've got to look at that number and almost like a break-even analysis of how many closed transactions do they need to bring in that you will then net that justifies the amount of time spent, because your time is valuable. So I want you to figure out what you're earning per hour. Now, if you're listing and buy side, you're going to have to kind of figure that out, because you earn a lot less when you're working with a buyer than you do with a seller. Okay, so that's realistic. And so you're going to have to come up with some sort of average number. But the time spent with bringing agents on to the team, the time spent with every time they might need help with a transaction and things like that, there needs to be some sort of a break-even number. Now, for most teams in the country, it's 24 closed transactions a year. Now, some people will freak out when they hear that. Our folks in New York did. They didn't think it was possible to close that many transactions. In California, Rick was like, what? For agents on his team, because no one was even near that number, because your average price point is higher, right? So you see, there aren't that many people in California closing that many transactions. I know that because I pulled the numbers from Brokermetrics on what the average agent in California closes, and it's not 24. Okay, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm close. So you kind of have to kind of figure out what that is. You can pull up your MLS and see what the average number, try to figure it out by people who've been in the business for at least a year or 2 years to see what that is, and then set realistic expectations. Okay. Start at 12, if that's what it is. Like with Rick's, we're kind of ramping up to give them a little bit of time so nobody has heart failure. But in areas like where David is, that's not unrealistic, right, David, for a newbie agent? Would you say 24 transactions is like crazy if they were in their second year of real estate?
Shouldn't be. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe if the market's the way it was the last 2 months, it might be, but.
Okay.
In
Yeah,
the
so
past months, I sold 14 in California. I'm tired.
So you do the work, do the research in your MLS and look and see what people are closing. So, but there has to be a minimum level of expectation, because otherwise you're wasting your time, and it needs to be in your contract. I'm just being honest here. You get somebody who comes in and does 3 a year, not really profitable for you.
Mm.
Okay. There's got to be a level of accountability for it. So there's got to be some sort of break even of, hey, you need to close 1 a month, realistically, for us to justify the marketing spent, photography, you know, are we paying for marketing for KV Core? Like if you've got Team KV Core, right? There are all of these things, like Rick said, like I had an agent say to me on his team, they're like, well, they must be overspending. And I was like, first of all, I am really particular on spend. Second of all, most agents don't look at a team and understand all of the ancillary cost. Rick has an office.
Yeah, all kinds of them don't get that at all. Yeah.
Because they don't know. They work from home. They're sitting in their PJs at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, and they don't understand all of the additional things that are paid for, right? Now, you can take it at another level. I did this in New York. I will pop that P&L statement out on the conference table. I don't hide a thing. I'm like, fine, let's talk about it. What would you like me to cut? The open house sign runner that goes out and puts the open house signs out for you so you don't have to? I am happy to cut that. Like, let's talk about what you want me to cut that you enjoy so much as being a part of this team. And when they see the numbers, they're like, oh, that coffee machine, that's $532 a month. I use that every day. I don't really think I want you to cut that.
Yeah.
So like, I'm very, very transparent when that stuff comes up. So I explained that the minimum level of production is in relation to what the expenses are. And it's because, one, I have those things to meet, right? And I take it very seriously when people have to put food on the table based on what we have to pay. And two, you told me what your goals are, and I take that very seriously as well. So if you told me that you need to make this much money to put food on your table at home or to meet whatever goal you had, and you told me that you want to make this much money, yet closing 2 transactions a month really equates to what you told me you want to make, and my requirement is 1 transaction a month, then we probably need to talk like about what your hang up is. Bruce, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead.
It is. For you two, Jason and David and Rick, what's the tipping point at which point you guys decided to go team? For instance, Jason, you came back in, well, you just started with the EXP and you've run teams before, it sounds like, wherever you were before.
No, so for me, what happened, no. I was a pastor and I've overseen like people.
Okay.
And I've overseen
So you're a manager of people.
Yeah, and I've
Okay.
also owned a jewelry store.
Okay.
Was a partner in jewelry store in Las Vegas. I own property in Vegas.
Okay. All right.
And if we meet, hopefully I'll send you some referrals. I always have people.
We're meeting now.
Yeah, good man. See,
If
this
we
is why
meet.
we're leaders. What happened was my son walked in and I said, "Hey, we're gonna go to Target." He loves going to Target. He's a 3-year-old. He loves Legos.
Mhm.
And then we're packing up, getting ready to go, and my phone rang. And I had to take the call, and somebody said, "Hey, I need to sell my house right now. I'm going through a divorce. I heard you're a great agent." And then I looked at my wife and she says, "I'll take him to Target." And then I took off, got a listing. And then I felt like shit. I officially
get it.
felt
I
like
know what
shit.
you're
At that
saying.
point, I knew that I don't want to be that guy that
Okay.
that I leave my son.
It was
So-
a scenario, basically.
Yeah, sort of. I knew we were heading that way because my wife's also a real estate agent, and she was already complaining about how much work we were doing.
Okay.
I knew it was heading there, but my wife is also always looks at finances and says, "No, we got it. And eventually she realized, I'm done. Hire a team.
Okay.
We've got 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the tendency when that happens, Jason, if the frustration level gets so high, this is why I tell everybody, it doesn't matter what part of your life you're talking about, you need a coach. Really.
Yeah.
Like, and when you get a coach, the first question you should ask them is, who's your coach? Because you want to make sure you're not hiring somebody who's full of shit. Like they're not like, oh yeah, coaching is most important. Well, if it's so important, why don't you have one? Right. And I constantly strive on this. Everybody at Workman, and I'm not pushing Workman, has to have a coach. And most of our coaches are being coached by one of the other coaches. Hello, look at Selena. She's my coach.
Right.
She's a Workman Success Systems. And she's not just any coach. She's at the higher tier, which means you're never going to pay much less than, I don't know, what's the least, $2,200 a month or something like that.
25 now, 25.
Yeah, 25 now, but you're getting one commensurate. And that's what Workman's really good at. They look at your production, they look at where you are, and they say, okay, we're going to get you a coach at a level that is where you are. And none of the coaches are 4 calls a month. They're all 2 calls a month, which gives you time to execute the homework and actually put things into play and then come back to the call and say, it didn't work, or it worked, or let me tell you this, so it's really good that way. But this is not to promote Workman. I'm just saying why Selena and I work so well together, because I already know the systems and operations. And I had 3 to 4 years of Casey walking behind me while I was doing Zooms with my coaching clients going, really, you're telling them to do that, but I don't see you doing that on your team, Rick. How's that going to feel, Jason, when your wife's walking by you saying, I see what you're doing, but you're not doing that in our business.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, David's grinning because he knows.
Well, my frustration, you said frustration levels. I let
Yeah.
the team kind of, when I came to I sold Next Home, went to Remax, brought a lot of people with me as a big team. Then when I
Yeah.
came to EXP, they all wanted to do their own teams.
Yeah.
And so I came with the small one and then just have been keeping it really small and doing my thing. But yesterday, after spending 6 hours in the car with a great client, they're selling a house, they want to buy a house, but they wanted to go. We were in the car for 6 hours yesterday. I'm like, okay, this is, you said frustration, like that's really what I want to do on a Sunday, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying not to work. At this point, I haven't taken a buyer's phone call for 2 weeks now, which is
Yay.
nice. But I feel like I need to get back out there. It's just a reprogram in my head. But, you know, here's the thing. I've got one agent writing an offer today. I started the team about 2.5 weeks ago, and I'm like, guys, let's go. You know, in my head, just because I'm a very driven individual, it's like, it's been 2 weeks. How do you not have something under contract?
Well, Jason, let's make sure that you're doing all the things too that hold them accountable. I mean, there need to be like huddles.
No, yes.
Yep. And, you know, there needs to be like, hey, what you have on tap today? How many calls are you making? Like, what does that look like? How many buyers are you actively working with right now? You know, what's your pipeline look like? How many A buyers, how many B buyers, how many C buyers? You know, A is ready, willing, and able right now. You have an appointment, you know the drill. You know, you've done stuff. So, you know, and then that's because if they know you're going to ask,
Right.
then they're going to be more likely to keep doing the activities, because they're going to feel really dumb saying, nope, didn't do anything yesterday, Jason. You know, so that's part of it. And it's, listen, you know, we saw Tony Robbins, what was that, a couple of months ago now, right, Rick?
Yeah.
And, you know, it was so funny
August,
because, yeah, it was so funny because he said, as you know, we're moving into the holiday, you know, period. And he was like, and I'm trying to understand why everyone calls it the holiday season, because it's literally 2 days, 48 hours of Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day, but everybody calls it the holiday season, and they take the whole time off, you know, pretty much. They don't do any work.
And
48 hours.
yeah, and that's because they're entrepreneurial. I was in the car business. I was in the car business for 20 years, right? And I was high level, owned a couple of stores with a big group here in town. And like you said, the holiday season to me is 2 days. Unfortunately, in a previous life, the car business took me away from vacation, Christmas vacation early. Go back, I had to run the store. You know what I'm saying? So when people take quote unquote the holiday season off, I don't get it. And to me, it's natural. Hey, I got Thursday off and I have whatever day Christmas falls on off. Every other day is a work day, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't get I get it. Don't get me wrong. I understand it, but I don't necessarily agree with quote unquote holiday season.
Well, I know we only have 10 minutes left, so I really
Yeah,
wanted
and I
to talk
have-
about. Oh, go ahead,
Wait,
Jason.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, guys. I've got to go. I'm going to go recruit some of the biggest agents around right now, literally
Excellent.
around town. So
Good.
hopefully we get them in, and then
Good.
Selena, I'll reach out to you.
Yeah, go ahead and reach
and
out.
chat.
Yeah.
Thank
Well, I
you.
know we've got each other's email. So.
Yeah, constantly. I appreciate it. I'll reach out, guys. Thank you for
Yeah.
all your input. I think Rick is frozen. Oh no.
Yeah. No, he's moving.
No, I was just listening intently.
Well, hopefully this works out, but thank you. I really love these meetings. These are huge. I was bummed when it kind of backed off for a little bit.
No worries.
Keep them up.
First and third Mondays,
Mondays.
11 a.m. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. What I was going to say is, as we're moving into the end of the year, this is an incredible time for recruiting. So keep in mind that as people are getting their 1099s and they're getting their end of year production numbers, this is the time that they start thinking about making a switch. So if you're going to have recruiting conversations about adding team members, this is the time to do it. Open up MLS. If you have access to Brokermetrics or anything like that, you're looking for people who, I look for people who have joined in the last year that have closed between 2 and 6 transactions. Those are the people that were most likely to help on a team. So if you're going to look them up, those are the people. You call them up and you say, hey, look, I noticed that you closed a couple of transactions this year. Just wanted to know if you're looking to close a few more. We're actively looking for people to join the team. We have great training and mentorship and guidance and lead flow, and we need more help. If you want to close more transactions, I'd love to speak to you. Okay, that is the best time. We're coming right into it, guys. This is like start now all the way into January 31st when they start getting the 1099 in the mail. But a lot of people are getting the production numbers from their brokerage by the end of the year. So keep that in mind. This is the time. Don't pull back on recruiting right now if this is the time you want to do it and you want to start building. This is it.
And what's the best split for a buyer's agent and for, I heard what y'all said for a listing?
Jason, you had a great one.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, the way Viral Workman, David Conart says is it's typically 40, 60 to begin. They get 40, you get 60, especially Destin, because you're more likely to do multiple transactions in a month. And that's for the first 2 transactions. Then the next 2 are 45, 55. And then anything above that is
50-50.
yeah, it's
50-50. You're incentivizing them to close more than,
Right.
4 and 5 transactions a
Yeah.
month, and it resets every month, David.
Well, that's every
and-
month, not for the year, okay.
No, every month.
No, every month.
And just to
yeah.
tell you guys, remember, it's hybrid. Do what you want. What we're
Yeah.
doing right now is if you on our team, because our average sale price is so high and getting people to even do 1 a month, is that if you do over 12 transactions in a year, then you get a nice, what is it, a 15% bump?
Yeah,
Don't they go
I
to
think no.
65? It's not 60. Oh, I thought it was, yeah. But
No,
anyway,
it's
it
not.
goes from 50-50 to like 60-40 or something.
Yes.
And if there's a
For any
referral
deal
fee that
done.
comes off the top,
What's that?
if there's a referral fee for that buyer.
Yeah, referral fees all come off the top.
Yeah.
And by the way, guys, remember, I know this is more advanced, but Jason, you might not be too far away from it.
Yeah.
After I got to 4 buyers agents, Cindy Cashin, who was one of my buyers agents, was stepping up on her own, answering questions for people, other buyers agents. So we put her in the official role of lead
buyers.
buyer specialist. And
Picked her son.
I don't answer any questions anymore to any of the buyers agents about how to write a contract or how to negotiate it. In fact, they were surprised today when they realized that none of them are even copying me anymore. It's just going right to my transaction coordinator. And they're like, well, Rick should know he's being copied. I go, I'm not being copied. You guys aren't copying me on anything, which I used to feel attached to that. Now I'm like, you know, like, don't copy me. See if I care. You know?
Yeah, please don't.
Yeah.
I'm starting to train my other agents, so we're getting
Yep.
to
Yeah.
that. I'm slowly, completely backing out.
Yeah.
That's called leverage, guys.
Yeah.
That's
And
called
the
Good
leverage.
thing. Yeah.
One thing right now, I just launched big Instagram ads and Facebook ads. I am getting like a lot of messages of people saying, hey, hire me, hire me, hire me, hire me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that as well as a good recruitment for EXP as well. Like I could
Yep.
use,
Right.
If they don't work out for the team, bring them into your line, folks.
Yeah.
And that was my question, because this is a
Yes,
team
Bruce.
build versus a
Organization.
organization build.
Yeah.
And I think more and more, I'm starting to think that that's the way that Bernadette and I have to go.
Yeah.
Simply because we can have more control over it, and then hopefully we can have them help build the organization as well.
Yeah.
But obviously, we want to build an organization. That's one of the reasons we joined EXP, but we've always wanted to have a team and build a team. And I hit Bernadette up on Teams and told her that this is right up my alley. It's just management. That's what I've done for the past 15 years. And, and when I asked Jason what the tipping point was, it's kind of, you got to a point where you couldn't do anymore, or this is what I was expecting to get an answer from you, but yours was obviously more emotional.
but also I get phone calls from buyers and I would actually be sad. And I'm not, but like me and my wife would laugh and we'd get a listing. Somebody would call and say, hey, I want to list our house. And then we'd get off the phone and we start to laugh and be like, do we really want another one?
Ah,
Right.
I'm laughing.
And by the way, I'm in California in Santa Barbara,
Mm.
like Santa Barbara area. Our listings are, the lowest one I've taken was 500, 530. Highest one, and my first one was 1.7.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like,
we're crying for you, Jason. We're
Yeah.
crying for you. Boo hoo.
Boo-hoo.
Yeah. And Bruce, can I add one thing to what you said?
Go ahead.
4 words
Yes,
for my
you may.
team: hungry, humble, smart, and coachable.
Coachable.
Hungry, humble, smart, and coachable for my team. Anything less than those 4, EXP.
EXP.
mhm.
Okay, hold on. Don't hang up the call yet. Hungry,
Okay.
humble,
Humble.
smart, and
And
coachable.
coachable.
Read The
four.
Ideal Team Player, Bruce.
Yeah.
It's a book. Ideal Team Player does Hungry, Humble, Smart. And we added Coachable.
Yeah.
Okay.
My only concern is we have a different level of leads. They're not referrals. They're
Yeah.
from.
That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right.
I'm feeding them Zillow too.
Yeah.
Wait.
Okay,
Let me just please say for one moment,
okay,
do not promise team members leads. It is not your responsibility to provide them leads. You
Okay.
can provide them opportunities. You
Gotcha.
don't call them leads. And
okay,
we teach them all to lead generate.
okay, cool.
You do
Number
not
one rule.
hire people and tell them that you're providing them leads.
That's why we're looking for hungry, humble, smart, and coachable. If I say, why are you looking to get on a team? And they go, because I need leads. You
That's
just
not
pretty
what you
much
want.
asked yourself right off the team.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay.
yeah.
But sometimes they're just totally like, you have to look, if they're hungry, humble, smart, and coachable, you can explain, hey, where'd you go to high school? There, great. How many people did you think you knew when you had graduated from high school? 200, really? Because the federal government says if you graduated from high school in the United States, you knew 2,000 people by first name. Do you remember where they're at? Like, we just start, and then as you watch their body language change, you could say, okay, this might be a fit. So some of them, you X them off the list, but I never X anybody. Come to EXP then, right?
Right.
I'll be your mentor for your first 3 transactions or whatever, but they may not be welcome on the team. Problem is, I knew all these things, but I wasn't acting on all those things because I just wanted everybody to come. So sometimes I said, yeah, come on the team. And that's bit me in the butt. Now I just say, here's the team, here's EXP. Okay?
Now, when you say mentor like underneath your team.
No,
as
mentor,
leads or
because
as
I am a
as
certified,
mentor?
no, I'm a certified mentor with EXP, but the only people I'll say yes to mentoring are either people in my first line or my second line, sometimes my third, nobody else. So,
Oh, because I signed up as a mentor
Yeah.
for part of the icon stuff, and it's like wearing me out, and they're not. in
well,
my
you have to
business.
quit saying yes.
Yeah,
They might
Yeah.
sign up, but they still ask you yes or no. I say no most of the time, but if it's
Okay.
somebody in my org, I'll usually say yes. So,
yeah. So I won't say yes anymore because it's like, that's what
Yeah.
made me realize, hey, I need a team because I need to make way more money.
yeah,
for
just
all
don't tell them Rick told you to say no, please. I'll get my ass.
this.
in
I need
trouble.
way more money for all this knowledge, so.
Yeah. Okay, I got to run, guys.
Yep.
This is
12.
great. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
All
Glad I
right.
made
See you in
this.
a couple weeks, guys. Bye-bye.
Absolutely.
Happy
Bye.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Likewise.
Meeting.
Bye.